Good morning, it's Karen, and let's get into some classic science fiction. One of my goals for 2024 is to read more classic science fiction. This last year, I read a couple that really sparked my interest in this particular niche corner. I have always enjoyed a few here and there. I find I have to find the right elements that I like, just with any genre, right? You have to find the things that you like. Ones that I've found in the past that I have enjoyed have a few elements that I really prefer to be reading. So, for example, The End of Eternity by Isaac Asimov, I loved because it had to deal with time travel in a way that I hadn't read before, and it had, an amazing ending. And there were parts of it that I didn't like and I didn't agree with. However, I liked the whole idea of it. Does that make sense? I've also enjoyed Babel 17 by Samuel Delany. That one explores language and how the power of language can bring together as well as pull apart different species across the universe. Like it's a big expansive one, but I liked how it delved into interpretation of language. It's got a similar kind of thing to, what is it? 1984, that doublespeak. It's playing with language. I loved Looking Backward by Edward Bellamy. These are my favorite types of books where people time travel to a future and the future is amazing and we've solved all the world's problems and here's why it's a utopia. And with that one, it literally just goes into like, and we solved healthcare and this is how we did it. Da, 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 da. And music is much better now and this is how we did it. And this is our banking system. Like, I really like the idea books. Those ones are really cool to grasp onto. Another idea book I would say is The Sea in Summer. I read this one this year. This one is also about ecological environment and how it affects humanity, and sort of inspects it on less of a this is the weather and more this is how humanity is now that the weather is this way. So it's like a secondary thing, it's not the focus, but we, the reader, are aware that there has been changes. I really enjoyed that aspect of this one in particular. I liked The Day of the Triffids. That's one of those like a plague has come to the world, except for with that one it's some sort of alien species that's attacking humanity, and some of humanity hides away, and it's all about the societies that pop up. Another idea book. I really enjoy parts of science fiction that will take an idea and just explore it in more of a think tank kind of a way. And I'm hoping that the list of books that I have will bring fun and enjoyment, but also some thinking and some ideas that maybe I haven't encountered before. I'm going to put a caveat in here. There are things with classic science fiction that I do really struggle with, but I'm willing to put aside for the sake of the classicness of it. I really dislike generally how female characters are treated. Usually they're just sort of like this cardboard cutout, literally, and they walk in and, oh, isn't she pretty? And this is her appearance, and oh, she's the love of my life, but we don't get any personality from her. There's no like, oh, we're told she's intelligent, but we're never actually shown that she's intelligent. There is also a very weird trend that I've noticed. This one bothers me a lot more because I can forgive a cardboard character because I find the authors that do cardboard characters generally don't just do it to females. They'll do it with like side characters as well. It's just everybody but the main character is underdeveloped. This one I find close to unforgivable. It's got a lot to do probably with our modern day perceptions and interpretations and the like. The older male gets the young female. I recently read a book that had that at the end, and the women seemed kind of like a prize almost, and it was a little bit odd. But it was like, here's this 50-year-old man who's been married and has grown-up kids, and he's had a whole life, and then suddenly this 20-year-old woman comes in, and it's a little icky. And I can't always get on board with that. It feels a little self-insert. I'm hoping that none of these cross that line, but you never know. Before we go on, I want to define what I am defining as classic science fiction. So in my mind, classic science fiction is literature and novels that have staying power. So these are ones that could be read 50 years from now and the message maintains the same. Things get dated, yes, but the power of the ultimate message stays the same. The ones that come up on people's recommendation lists for science fiction you need to read, or I would say even award winners. I was really looking at the Arthur C. Clarke Awards. I was quite enjoying the list that was there. So I've got a couple that were award winners that I added to my list for this year. I have two classic science fictions that I just came across, and they just struck me as really interesting. I was at a used bookstore. Both of them popped out at me. Both of them are well-known authors. I have looked up lists of must-read science fiction, and these both popped up. The first one is Red Mars by Kim Stanley Robinson. I have been meaning to read Kim Stanley Robinson for a long time, and this one is about terraforming Mars. And I'm pretty excited about this idea of just humans on Mars, and I think the series is really cool. It's Red Mars, Green Mars, Blue Mars, I think in that order. And if I like this one, I have two more to get into. The next one I have on my top 10, these are ones that I definitely am going to read this year, is the John Scalzi Old Man's War. I have heard nonstop good things about this one. Ooh, this is even cooler than I thought. Okay, so this is about, we finally reached the stars, and Earth wants old men to go out and fight, and they want the old men because they have decades of experience and knowledge, and they want to send them out into the world. They get 2 years of fighting, and then they're given a homestead of their own. This is very reminiscent of what they would do in America, is they would promise people homesteads and lands for X number of years fighting or X number of years service or whatever. So I'm really interested in this one. The City in the City by China Miéville. That one won the Arthur C. Clarke in 2010. This is like two parallel worlds, which to me is related to time travel. So you have your parallel universes and they kind of overlap, and there's some sort of detective-y mystery thing, and I'm finding right now that I'm quite enjoying mystery blended with another genre. So also Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I've heard nothing but good reviews for this one, like this entire series. This one continually wins awards, so it's time I jump in the deep end and go for this one. I do know it's about mankind finding another new Earth and possibly giant spiders, but I'm not sure. One that's at the top of my list that's an Arthur C. Clarke Award winner is Rosewater. That one won in 2019. I don't know how to say the guy's name. Tade Thompson, I think is his name. People living in a biodome are on the edge of a biodome, and that's all I know. I have Voyage to Arcturus. This has come up so many times as one of those ones that you must read of the classic science fiction genre. Epic quest through space, and apparently there's a really original alien world. The Anubis Gates is a time travel, and I read the first chapter for my time travel try a chapter tag, and I loved it. And then my hold expired. Like, I took it out of the library and then I had to return it, so I didn't get to read it in time. So this one is back on my list. I already know I'm gonna love it. It reads like a thriller, and it's time travel. Like, where can you go wrong on that one? One that I bought last year is The Trouble with Lichen. This is by John Wyndham. This is the same guy who wrote Day of the Triffids, which I really liked. And this is sort of like it's sold as like a feminist kind of thing where it's commentary on the aging process. There's a pair of scientists, and they both discover this anti-aging thing in the lichen. And it should be interesting to see the discussion of feminism, especially from the point of a man. It'll be interesting. It is one of the lowest rated on Goodreads on my to read list, so that should be. We'll see. I have Timeline by Michael Crichton. Yes, that's the Jurassic Park guy. Timeline, it's time travel. So I put that one on there. I think this one has staying power. Yes, it was written in the late 80s, early 90s. And this is about a bunch of archaeologists that discover some sort of site, and then there's time travel to the Middle Ages, which is my favorite time period to read. On the flip side, I have a really cool edition of Babel 17, and it's one of those, like, you can flip it around. On one side, it's Babel 17, and then you flip it over, and it's a novella called Empire Star, and I really want to read this one because I really liked Babel 17, and I have no idea what Empire Star is about, but let's go into some more Samuel Delany. I would love to. Another one that came up when I was looking up dystopian type books was Children of Men by P.D. James. I didn't realize that P.D. James wrote science fiction-y type stuff. I thought it was mostly mystery, thriller, political kind of stuff. But this one is, I don't know, there's like a infertility, humans stop making babies. I think there's exploration of how to keep hope when there's a lot of despair. It'd be interesting to explore that one through that sort of lens. When I was also at that secondhand store, I picked up a series of short stories by Larry Niven. I read, what did I read by him? Ringworld. Okay, that's a classic science fiction that I read and enjoyed, not as much as I wanted to, but this series of short stories explore, I think they're all interconnected over the series of like a millennia, mankind's evolution and colonization of space. I discovered this one through my Libby app and then subsequently went to my bookstore and saw it on the shelf, so I think this must be a reprint. This is the Hopkins manuscript. Every time I reread the synopsis, I think that has got to be the most fascinating description, and I really need to read that now. First off, it starts with a man who's raising chickens. He's like 50 years old. I raise chickens. I relate to him. Okay. Then the moon is on a trajectory to collide with Earth, and we're not given a whole lot of time. And it's another one of those things where it's in the wake of possible destruction, what does humanity do for hope? In the same vein of where I read the synopsis and then I forget it immediately, sometimes I just put things on my list because I go, oh, that sounds interesting. I recognize that author, or I think that title sounds amazing. I was looking on my LibriVox app and there were two Andre Nortons that struck me as very interesting. The first one, called The Plague Ship, it's got a plague. Check, done, I've chosen it. The other one is called The Time Traders. Time. I like time travel. Check. Put that one on the list. Don't know what they're about. The last one was a last minute addition because I just read the best story by Keith Lomer in the Dangerous Visions anthology. He wrote this story called Test to Destruction, and it was so good. For a short story, so good. So I thought I'd put another book by him on, and Greylorn came up. And I don't know what that's about, but I'm fully in. If he writes that same way in this book, I'm on board. As a true Libranaut, I am exploring a new genre that I have enjoyed in the past but have not gone too deeply into. So here we go with some classic science fiction. My name is Karen. I am the book Libranaut. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Bye. Can't wait to start. If you watch my channel long enough, you realize that I read a synopsis and then I almost immediately forget it, which is okay because I love that my past self has said, you like this book, you like these elements. But my future self goes, I don't remember what this is about. I'm going into this completely blind. And I read it, and sometimes I am blown away